What if a serial killer managed to convince police that his innocent neighbor was the murderer? In the late 1940s, a quiet neighborhood in London seemed like the last place anyone would expect to find a monster. The residents of 10 Rillington Place lived ordinary lives. Families shared walls, neighbors greeted each other, children played in the streets. Among those residents was a man named John Christie. To those who knew him, Christie appeared harmless, soft-spoken, polite, helpful, the kind of neighbor people trusted. But behind that ordinary appearance was a secret few could imagine, and eventually that secret would cost an innocent man's life. In 1949, a young woman named Beryl Evans and her infant daughter were found dead inside the building. The discovery shocked the community. Police immediately launched an investigation. Suspicion quickly fell on Beryl's husband, Timothy Evans. Evans was young, nervous, and under intense pressure. During questioning, he made a series of confusing statements. Some contradicted each other, some changed entirely. To investigators, it looked like guilt. But Evans insisted there was something they were missing. He claimed his neighbor, John Christie, knew more than he was saying. According to Evans, Christie had offered strange advice and had somehow become involved in the situation. But police dismissed the accusation. After all, Christie seemed respectable, reliable, trustworthy. Evans, on the other hand, appeared unstable and inconsistent. The case moved quickly, too quickly. Prosecutors argued that Evans had murdered his wife and child. The evidence seemed convincing. The jury agreed. Timothy Evans was convicted. In 1950, he was executed. The case appeared closed. Justice had been served, or so everyone believed. Then, something unexpected happened. 3 years later, a new tenant moved into the same building. While exploring part of the property, workers made a horrifying discovery. Human remains, then more remains, and then more. The investigation reopened immediately. As police searched the property, the scale of the horror became clear. Multiple women had been murdered, their bodies hidden throughout the building. The evidence pointed to one person, John Christie, the quiet neighbor, the helpful neighbor, the trusted neighbor. Suddenly, everything changed. Investigators discovered that Christie had been living a double life. For years, he had lured women into his home. Many were vulnerable, some were desperate, others simply trusted him. Once inside, they never left. The man who had appeared so ordinary actually was a serial killer. And the deeper authorities looked, the worse the story became. Evidence suggested that Christie was responsible not only for the newly discovered victims, but likely for the deaths of Beryl Evans and her daughter as well. The same deaths that had sent Timothy Evans to the gallows. The implications were staggering. An innocent man may have been executed while the real killer lived only a few feet away, free, watching, listening, and getting away with murder. As the evidence mounted, Christie could no longer hide. He fled London, but his freedom didn't last long. Authorities tracked him down and arrested him. When confronted with the evidence, Christie eventually confessed to multiple murders. The quiet neighbor had finally been exposed. In 1953, John Christie was convicted and sentenced to death. The serial killer was executed, but unlike his victims, Christie had received a trial based on the truth. Timothy Evans never got that chance. Years later, public outrage over the case continued to grow. Many people believed Evans was one of the greatest miscarriages of justice in British history. the government eventually reviewed the case. Questions that should have been asked decades earlier finally received attention. In 1966, Evans was granted a posthumous pardon, and in 2004, the government formally acknowledged that he had not murdered his wife or daughter. By then, of course, it was too late. The damage had already been done. An innocent man had lost his life. A serial killer had manipulated suspicion, and one of the most disturbing criminal cases in British history became a warning that still echoes today. Because sometimes the person who looks the most guilty isn't the killer, and sometimes the real monster is standing right next door. And it leaves one question: how many other killers escaped suspicion simply because they looked trustworthy?